This is a 1987 4th Gen Corvette with an L98 5.7 liter V8 and a 4-speed automatic transmission. That's Corvette Chief Engineer Tads Uchter behind the wheel. Tads joined GM in 1977 and began working on Corvettes in the 1990s. He certainly knows C4 inside and out because he helped tune that car. Tads has been busy with the launch of the 7th generation Corvette Stingray, not to mention the Z06 version, but not so busy that he couldn't drive Car and Driver down memory lane in ancestral Corvettes from C1 through C6. I've known him for 20 years, and he's always been the kind of guy who's up for a quick spin around the block for no reason other than to talk Corvettes with a fellow car nerd. We actually made major contributions to development of these. They put them in Playboy Escort Endurance Series, and we ran 24-hour races, and you learn in a weekend what works, what doesn't.
So did you run them?
Yeah, well, we drove. I had a head-on collision at Sears into, I think it was a Porsche that somebody got out of and left it up at the top of the hill. And I was behind our teammate, and he jinked over just to miss him, and I was drafting him. I nailed the sucker, and it collapsed the longitudinal on one side. Of course, it wasn't running. They had it fixed in a week. It was ready for the next race. It didn't hurt me any. My knees went into the dash, but I think that it knocked that other car into next week. So we're up to C4. This is a 1987 convertible. Power's down to 240. Lipstick red interior. Still no airbag in the wheel. Thick padded rim steering wheel, only 2 spokes, not as stiff as it probably could be. It is telescopic. Does it tilt?
Yes, it does.
Tilt too. And this is the video game instrument cluster.
Tokyo by Night, you guys used to call it.
Some of these elements reappeared in C7, like the hockey stick attack that some people like.
Some people love it.
I'm sure.
But despite its flaws, this car still feels like just a massive leap over the previous one. To me, it goes from vintage to somewhat recent memory.
Well, it got rack and pinion steering, got a serious structure with a perimeter frame, very high sides. The suspension geometry has worked out much better, and I think it's got composite springs front and rear, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe you are correct. It has the largest rear view mirror of any of the Corvettes. Absolutely massive, but it gives you a good view from behind in a convertible.
Yeah, these cars were great on the track. They held up well. The brakes were strong. They were comfortable for 24-hour races.
This car suffers from some structural deficiency. You see the column shake, somewhat like the previous generations, but by this point in time, it should not have. The story, as I've heard it, was that the original concept for the car was to be a T-top, so a permanent center bar, and you just take out the side panels. But GM leadership said, no, we want a full removable roof, a target top. And so even though the rest of the structure was not designed for that full open air, that was the mandate, and as a result we have less than ideal structural performance.
Well, and the convertible went away for a few years. It came back.
86, wasn't it?
I believe it was 86 when it came back. This has the comforting belt line up to shoulder height, so you don't feel vulnerable in it. You do feel settled down and part of the car. You really are part of the car because you're sitting within the frame rails now.
Yeah. Literally.
Some people objected to that. The entry was difficult for women in skirts, so that changed into C5.
The entry egress of the car was a huge customer dissatisfier. The structural weaknesses was a dissatisfier. If you look at the styling of this car, you know, it looks like a rocket ship with the tucked-in rockers. It looks cool, but it takes away room for structure right down there where you need it, and that's what squeezed the structure high, so you got to climb over that high rail to get into the car.
Yeah, I know that so-called 3-rail, that was a breakthrough that came in the next generation, and helped Corvette immensely.
One thing that's amazing is the view from the driver's seat is by far the tamest of all the cars. The fender peaks are very muted, the power bulb's relatively muted, not nearly as exaggerated as the previous cars.
It's all orthogonal inside too, sort of little picture frames around everything. Kind of a flat theme to the dash. These cars were successful and highly regarded in their day, but it just shows that you can always make them better. And,
you always can.
Listen a little bit to customers and think about it, and there's new technology and you can make a better car out of it. Very good.
Can't wait for the next one.